in here, Columbiana Ecclesia of God. Another segment, Pagan Christianity. I'm doing a series of videos on the different objects of worship and relics and symbols and stuff in Orthodox Christianity that is pagan. I am just totally convinced that Orthodox Christianity, the more I look at it, is 100% pagan. God and Jesus Christ in name only. Well, I got a question for you. Yeah, your typical white New England church, and you see pictures of them, very picturesque in the fall, and amongst the maples, the red maples and stuff like that, and the birches, and it kind of looked like this. Now look at what's on the top of this building, and this structure right here. What does that remind you of? What's it look like? Especially, you guys and girls out there, you older people, you married couples, what does that look like? Yeah? Well, God says that Ephraim, the United States, the great assembly of peoples, is heavily involved in Baal worship. You can read that in Isaiah, in Hosea. You can read it in Micah. You can read it in the prophets. Ever since this guy came around, of course, in Judges, they quickly turned to the Baals and the Asherahs, or Ashtoreths. King Ahab, 1 Kings 16, once again, verse 29, in the 38th year of Asa, king of Judah, Ahab the son of Omri became king over Israel, and Ahab the son of Omri reigned over Israel in Samaria 22 years. Now Ahab the son of Omri did evil in the sight of the Lord more than all who were before him. And it came to pass, as though it had been a trivial thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, that he took for his wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, so bearing the name of Baal. He was a priest of Baal, Jezebel's father, king of the Sidonians, and he went and served Baal and worshipped him. That's King Ahab. Then he set up an altar for Baal in the temple of Baal, which he had built in Samaria. And Ahab made, it's in the New King James here, a wooden image. That can be translated an Ashereth or an Asherah pole. Guess what these things are on the top of these churches that you see time and time again throughout the landscape and countryside, in the cities, in the towns of the United States, Ephraim, the great assembly of peoples. You see on the top of your church an Asherah pole. Baal worship is alive and well in Ephraim. Whenever you, like Ahab did, he made an altar to Baal. Whenever you had to make an altar to Baal, you had to place an Asherah pole next to Baal. So that is the shaft of Baal, or in other words, the male organ of Baal. In other words, it is the penis of Baal. Baal was the fertility god of the spring. He began to be celebrated on December 25th. That was his birthday, the day of the new sun. They knew that the sun was coming back in the northern hemisphere on December 25th. They could see it in the sky for the first time, higher, after 3 days of hovering low in the southern hemisphere. They knew that spring was returning and that life would once again grow. The trees would grow, and, well, you had the pine tree, the fir tree, which is, we'll get into that. I'll save that for another, that thing you put in your house every year. That is a phallic symbol too, every Christmas. So real quick here, this is actually, a lot of this is from not from me, but it's on my website. Steeples. Does your church building have one? If so, why? The next time you are driving through your town, notice the landscape in the horizon. You will see churches from the Roman Catholic to the Baptist and Methodist, all topped with a steeple as though there is some biblical mandate for it. However, you can search the Bible from Genesis to Revelation and never see any indication that a house for worship of the true and living God contains such a structure. Actually, the people are the ecclesia, or the house of God. In Thessalonians chapter 5, we are admonished to prove all things and hold fast to what is good. So from the article, The Good Old Time Religion, which is on my website, other articles and websites, the steeple and the Asherah pole, or the Asherah pole. The Westminster Dictionary of the Bible tells us that an Asherah pole was always erected at the altar of Baal. In fact, absolutely every single altar of Baal had an Asherah pole beside it, which was an upright, denuded tree. This type of phallic pole has always been associated with sun worship. Interestingly, nearly 20 different tribes of American Indians performed the sun dance around a sun pole. So this was a worldwide thing. It started in ancient Babylon. It's part of Mystery Babylon. There are many supposedly Christian traditions that have suspicious origins. Most people never consider where the tradition of having a steeple on top of a church comes from. Do churchgoers ever wonder why almost every church has a steeple on top of it? Read from The Customs of Mankind by Eichler. There are still in existence today remarkable specimens of original phallic symbols, steeples on churches, and obelisks. All shows the influence of our phallus-worshipping ancestors. Yeah, all the way back to Ahab, who started it in the 10 northern tribes of Israel. Baal worship involved phallus worship, so it is no surprise that all of Baal's churches would have a phallic steeple. The stone obelisk. Obelisk simply means shaft of Baal. The stone obelisk was another phallic symbol. The word obelisk literally means Baal's shaft, or Baal's organ of reproduction. Masonic and occult symbol illustrated by Kathy Burns. Baal was a very common name of the principal male god. Among the Babylonians, he was called Bel. The obelisk is associated with sun worship. According to Babylon mystery religion, the erect, upright, pointed column represents the phallus, the male sex organ of Baal, or Nimrod. As I said, his wife deified him when he died. He became the sun god. This stuff goes all the way back to ancient Babylon. That's what Mystery Babylon is in Revelation chapter 17. And ultimately the Catholic Church, which took up the mantle of Baal. God specifically told Israel not to put a phallic pole next to his altar. That's Deuteronomy 16:21. Do not set up any wooden Asherah pole beside the altar you build to the Lord your God. God didn't want it because the upright steeple tells you that you've just located an altar of Baal. So inside you have the altar, and then on the top you have the steeple. You know what? I forget where it says in, I can use this. I forget where it says that in Hosea, but the king of Assyria is going to carry off some kind of relic, or they're going to carry it to the king of Assyria from Ephraim. Something of significance. I wonder if it'll be this. The Washington Monument. That is nothing but a phallic symbol. That is a shaft of Baal. It's all over. There's even a there's even an obelisk in St. Peter's Square in the Vatican, right in the center, and you have the zodiac sign in St. Peter's Square. That it's actually a round area. So all this stuff. So we have the male organ of Baal. That's what's on your church steeple. Pagan Christianity. Pagan to the core. Orthodox Christianity. If you have a steeple on your church, you've got the male organ of Baal on your church. So, end of that segment. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening.